It's the week leading up to May the 4th, which means nerds and geeks everywhere are talking about the Star Wars franchise. Hi, my name's Zach, and today we are going to rank the most polarizing of all the Star Wars trilogies, the sequel trilogy. Before we get started, like many of you, I started this YouTube channel because I cannot watch a movie without needing to talk about it afterwards. And if that sounds like you, you're in the right place. Consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, I want this to be a dialogue, a conversation going on between me and you. So leave me your ranking of the sequel trilogy down below and give me some context. Did you see these in theaters? Are you a new viewer to these films? Do you hate them? Do you love them? Comment down below. Let me know. I'd love to see your list. With all that out of the way, let's get started with my ranking. In last place, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, a disappointing finale to a disappointing trilogy. When it came to The Last Jedi, all the decisions that Rian Johnson made in that film that was clearly not where J.J. Abrams was going to go after The Force Awakens. The question with Rise of Skywalker was, are they going to run with the decisions that Rian Johnson made, or are they going to run away from the decisions that Rian Johnson decided to make? And instead of being a cohesive narrative coming off of Rian Johnson's, they brought back J.J. Abrams, and it feels like J.J. Abrams was like, Rian Johnson took away everything I was trying to do. And the movies just become a tug of war with each other, where The Last Jedi is pulling one way and The Rise of Skywalker pulls the other way, where you feel like you don't make any ground moving forward. Where Rise of Skywalker decided to just go for fan service. They just were trying to be the fun, action-packed Star Wars film again. But after you deconstruct everything with Last Jedi the way that Last Jedi did, it's hard to get back to that place. So, what do? You bring back Emperor Palpatine. How? Somehow, terrible line of all of cinema. You have these characters who went in one way in the last film and go a completely opposite way in the other film, where it feels completely unnatural to the characters themselves, where we just came off with them. It is clearly made by a studio in disarray. It's a studio that's panicking, freaking out, hitting that button. How do we fix this? How do we fix this? And the way that they went about to fix it with The Rise of Skywalker, I thought just made for a messy, incoherently made film. To the point that by the end of the film, when you've got all those starships rising up from the Emperor with the Last Order, whatever it was called, it's like, how did Emperor Palpatine do that? How was he able to do that? How, for that matter, how was he able to come back? They just throw out a line from Revenge of the Sith for nostalgia's sake to try to make you forget that Emperor Palpatine shouldn't be here. And it's a film that, to me, insults the audience, insults the Star Wars audience. Does it look great? Of course. It's Disney. They've got all the money in the world. They can make a film look great. The action's kind of fun. Sure. But when it comes to the important stuff of a story, character, and especially in a trilogy where you're trying to wrap up an overarching story of multiple characters, multiple storylines, they just didn't have this sequel trilogy set up for success. That The Rise of Skywalker was just in a very bad position when it came out. I don't give J.J. Abrams any gruff for it. I give all the leadership at Lucasfilm gruff for it. They should have had a plan going forward after Force Awakens. They didn't. And we got a very disappointing sequel trilogy. And Rise of Skywalker was just the very disappointing cherry at the top of it. Now let's talk about the most polarizing of all the Star Wars films, Star Wars The Last Jedi. When this film came out, you had a bunch of people on one side who loved it. You had a bunch of people on the other side who hated it. It completely split the audience down the middle. We've never been able to come back into the aisle since. Where do I land on it? When I first saw it, I wasn't quite sure how I felt about it. A couple years went by. I've rewatched it a couple times. I like the parts with Rey and Luke a little bit more than I like the chase going on with Kylo Ren and the First Order and all those, and Poe and Finn and all those guys over there. I always found some stuff going on with Rey and Luke, and Luke's distaste for the Jedi and why, to be a little bit fascinating and a little bit more interesting than the second half of the film. But as time goes on, this Star Wars movie ages like milk. As I go back to revisit The Last Jedi, I just find that I don't enjoy it very much. Where The Force Awakens back in 2015, when that came out, that was all set on just remember the fun of Star Wars. Remember when Star Wars came out in 1977, how fun it was, the space fantasy adventure, the fun characters, the action, all of that. When you get to The Last Jedi, it feels like Rian Johnson is reminding you, hey, you're grown-ups now. Let's construct all these things that you were told to believe as kids, and let's bring them down to a more nihilistic level, basically. And that's just not fun in Star Wars for me. And it feels like Rian Johnson is telling me that all this stuff I like about Star Wars, I shouldn't like about Star Wars. And we need to really evaluate this and look at it. And I don't want to do that. I just want to go to the space fantasy adventure world. I just want to hang out with these characters I love. I want to have lightsaber battles. I want to have space battles. Why would you take away my enjoyment in the film that I just want to come for escapism and fun? On top of that, I think that this being the longest Star Wars movie to date is totally unjustified, as a lot of the plot lines going on in here could be cut. Finn and Rose's plotline in particular completely cut everything going on that casino planet. Poe's storyline with Holdo and Leia could have been trimmed down so much more than it was in this film. Put the focus on Rey and Luke and give us more of that going on. But there's just too much going on in this film where it clearly doesn't respect or want to carry on at all what J.J. Abrams had set up in Force Awakens, particularly when it comes to the character of Snoke, where it feels like this was in the midst of the culture of fan speculation and fan theories, where not just fans being fans amongst themselves, but these fan theories and speculations got so big through the internet, through YouTube videos, that actually reached the creatives, that actually reached the stars. People knew what the fans were speculating and talking about, and it felt like Rian Johnson just wanted to pull one over on the fans, killed Snoke, killed all the theories, killed all the mystery, killed all of the interest going forward, as The Last Jedi kind of takes a lot of what J.J. Abrams set up, kind of wraps it all up by the end of the film in a way where you kind of go, what are they going to do next with this film? And it was clear that the filmmakers and those behind the series of Star Wars at Lucasfilm at this point also thought, what are we going to do next with these films? Then we got The Rise of Skywalker. And it's all because they just didn't have a plan for this trilogy. And for that reason, when I go back to The Last Jedi, I just feel like this is the film that killed all momentum that the sequel trilogy had going for it. And it's just a bummer of a rewatch. Which is going to bring us to our number one, Star Wars The Force Awakens. And as I wasn't alive for The Phantom Menace, this is one of the most hyped and most anticipated films I'd ever seen in my lifetime. Star Wars was coming back under the Disney banner. But was it going to be good? For me, yeah. Star Wars The Force Awakens was pretty good because it was clear that what J.J. Abrams and team were trying to do, they were trying to go back to Star Wars A New Hope. They were trying to recapture this just being a space fantasy film full of action, full of excitement, with now heightened effects, more innovative filmmaking, more budget to the film going on. So while this movie is a little bit of a recap, a remake of A New Hope and some of the greatest moments of the Star Wars original trilogy, I enjoy all of that in Star Wars. I think the introductions of Finn and Rey in this film in particular are very good. They're very interesting characters. They have a very fun interplay going on throughout the film. You throw in Han Solo into the mix with these two as well. Just makes for a fun trio as we go through the galaxy. I love the character of Kylo Ren introduced in this film. The idea of a character who was on the dark side but feeling pulled to the light side and resisting it was such a new and twist idea in the Star Wars lore and movies up until this point. The action in it, like I said, is just fun. The movie's main concern is to just bring fun back to Star Wars. And when it came out in 2014, I feel like it accomplished that goal. And when I go back and watch The Force Awakens today, I still have fun with it. I still enjoy the ride. Granted, this one is a little bit hurt by the end of it because I know where it goes, and where it ended up going I wasn't a particular fan of, and it's very disappointing that they didn't plot out these films when they first came up with the concept for Force Awakens. Hey, you think we should figure out where this is going to go in the future? Nah. Biggest mistake, second biggest mistake of Star Wars. The first being never having Han, Luke, and Leia on the screen together. Of course, they couldn't know what was going to happen with the untimely passing of Carrie Fisher and all that. Still, bonehead move not to have them have at least one scene in this film. Bonehead move to not plan a trilogy of actual narrative of where they were going to go past this film. Just judging this film on its own merits, I quite enjoy it. But I will admit, I enjoyed a little bit less knowing what came after it. But even with all that said, comes in at number 1 as my favorite of the sequel trilogy. If you like videos like this, I've got a playlist right up there with more Star Wars rankings, including the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy that we did this past week. Also, right down there is the most recently uploaded video to the channel that you can check out. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. We talk about movies on here all the time, and we'd love to have you join us. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't just watch movies, talk movies. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.